and welcome to Tutor Time with Mallory. Today I have the honor of interviewing Dr.RochelleFord. How are you doing today, Doctor?
I'm doing real fine. Thank you for having me today, Mallory.
Can you talk about how you know you wanted to work in the education industry?
Ever since I was little, I loved school. And I would even get extra homework assignments. Like back in the day, they called them mimeographs, like photocopies. And I bring them home. And then over the summer, I would teach my friends in the neighborhood. We would play school and I would grade their schoolwork. So I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. But as I got older, I fell in love with journalism and communications. And I knew that I wanted to do something where I could continue to tell stories, ask lots of questions, but then also I fell in love with the industry of public relations because I love to solve problems. And PR people, they are the ones that work on behalf of organizations and they become their corporate storytellers in order to build better relationships with their communities, with their employees, with possible customers. And it was the combination of both worlds. And when I went to college, I fell in love with that academic environment. I knew I didn't want to teach little kids. I love my own children, but I didn't want to do little kids. But I knew that I wanted to continue to teach. So I decided to combine my two loves of teaching and the profession of communications into a career. And so I became a college professor.
What was it like going to Howard and Maryland to get your BA in public relations and Maryland to get your MA in public relations?
So both of my degrees are actually in arts. They're in journalism with concentration in public relations. And even my doctorate is in journalism. So all three of those experiences were different, but rewarding and exciting. Being immersed at an HBCU at what many would call the capstone, the mecca of higher education at Howard University, it was an awesome experience to be right in Washington, D.C., and to be exposed to so many leaders on Capitol Hill, as well as on in corporate America, being involved in student organizations like the Public Relations Student Society of America, networking with professionals in the Black Public Relations Society, as well as the National PRSA. And it exposed me to a world of opportunities. And it gave me confidence because at an HBCU, I wasn't minoritized. I was part of the center. I was, no one was asking me about why is my hair that way. No one was asking me, just questions about what it's like to be Black in America. It was all about me just being a leader. It was about me being the best scholar that I could be, being the best professional that I could be. And it gave me a world of confidence. When I received a scholarship to University of Maryland, a fellowship, it then opened me up to the world of theory. I was a great practitioner, had many undergraduate internships. I had a job upon graduation, so I was working full-time at a PR agency. Actually got recruited back to one of the places I had interned and became a regional communications director for for AARP. And to have all that professional experience, but learning the why, learning the theory behind the practice is what University of Maryland did for me in earning my master's degree. And so it exposed me to theory and experimental design and research and how those theories could help us elevate the practice of public relations. But those theories grew out of journalism. The skills that I learned in undergraduate to do public relations grew out of journalism skills of writing, reporting, editing, designing, all those same things that journalists do, but do it for a different type of purpose, for information, but also for persuasion and behavioral change. So I learned the science of behavioral change and persuasion and management theory when I was in graduate school. And then when I went on to get my doctorate at Southern Illinois University at Carbondale, that took my theory and research skills to a whole nother level and prepared me to generate new knowledge. And it became a full circle experience because as an undergraduate, I had interned at AARP. As a graduate student, I began to understand more about gerontology because I love diversity. I love my experience working at AARP. So I got a gerontology certificate, and it helped me to understand how people communicate as they age and how do we segment audiences. And that love for diversity that I got in terms of diversity and inclusion as an undergraduate, and then looking at it in terms of strategic communications with senior citizens that I did at the master's level with my master thesis. When I got to my doctorate, it opened up how could I advance the public relations industry through diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I did that by looking at the experiences of African Americans within the public relations industry, and um, what was their experience like? Were they being trapped into doing race only type of projects? Were they feeling pigeonholed? And that was what became my topic of my dissertation, and it launched me into a career that I focused and became a leading expert in the area of diversifying the communications industries, helping the industries to become more equitable. And that helped me to prepare future generations of public relations and journalism and film students who are people of color, be it at HBCUs where I started my teaching career or at predominantly white institutions like I did at Syracuse and at Elon, are now coming back as president and helping more Black identifying and students from other countries or students who care about the Black experience to help launch their careers as leaders. I know that was a really long answer to your question, but I think it hopefully helped to understand how that preparation from Howard, where they poured into me, led me to Maryland, where I was extremely prepared and got a full scholarship to be there and earn a master's. Then to my doctorate, which I also got a fellowship. So I never had to pay for a degree because I was so well prepared from each of my experiences.
What was it like going for your PhD in journalism at Southern Illinois?
It was a test of endurance. One of my mentors, Dr. Barbara Hines, said that earning a doctorate is a test of endurance, and I 100% agree because it's you against you. You have to read and study and find materials that you want to learn more about, and it takes you on a journey through the literature of what other people have written about and challenges you to cultivate new knowledge and information. But no one's making you do it. It's not like when you're working on an undergraduate degree, you have 7 classes or you have 6 classes, 5 classes, and you've got to do these homework assignments every night and so many readings every night. This is an independent journey. So when you come up with the research idea for your dissertation, you're going to spend the next 2 years immersed in that topic to become an expert at it. And you have to be able to defend what you've done, because what you've done is a solid piece of research from a theoretical perspective, from a methodological research perspective, that your findings are solid, reliable, valid, that your conclusions make sense and are drawn from what you actually research, and that it's applicable to the field in which you're doing research in, and that there's other branches of that research that you can discover. But you're not on anybody's clock except for your own. Your mom and dad, like in high school, aren't there telling you to do your homework. And probably as a graduate student, PhD student, for me, I was a mom and I was working a job at University of Tennessee at Martin, and then transferred to Howard University as a new faculty member. And I was a wife. It was a test against me because it's not a required degree. You become part of the 1%. And you're part of the 1% that have those doctorate degrees. Why? Because you endured, that you had the perseverance, that you stuck to it and got it done.
What was it like going to Harvard for higher education?
That was a really cool experience. It's a very intensive, I guess it was I'm looking at the certificate, how long it was. It's about 2 weeks long. And you are immersed with some of the best minds in higher education. And each of you are at a mid-career, and it's taking you to the executive level. People who were in my cohort in that class are college presidents also. I was probably one of the youngest members of our cohort. There's another college president of an HBCU. There's another college president of a community college that came out of my cohort. Another college president of a private institution in Virginia. And it has been so exciting to watch their career trajectories. And we were challenged to develop a case that we were struggling with at work and present that problem as a case study for our classmates to work out during those seminars. And they were really complicated, messy problems. And we all talked about it. And if we were in their shoes, what would we do? What kind of resources? Who would we talk to? How would we work it out? And it was an amazing opportunity to learn from each other, to challenge each other. And you know what? Inside my folder, right next to my desk, are my notes and books from that workshop, because I can refer to them today as I'm dealing with tough situations as a president today.
How did you know you wanted to study and work in communications?
Like I said, I loved asking questions. I've always been that inquisitive girl, the kind of girl that raises her hand all the time and has questions in class, and everybody was like, no, not another question, Shelley, put your hand down. That's my nickname from childhood. And I knew that I always had a thirst for knowledge and wanting to understand why. But that thirst for knowledge and asking questions made me want to tell those stories. I love to write, and enabled me to ask questions, to write stories. But it's not just asking questions and write stories for information. I wanted to be part of problem solving and making the world a better place. And that's why I fell in love with communications, with journalism, and then ultimately public relations, because I wanted to help people. I wanted people to feel like they belong. I don't want people to feel like they're outsiders. So how do we use the power of communications, our inquisitiveness, our thirst for discovery to help advance people in their own pursuits and to feel included?
How was it like to balance being a professor at Howard while going to Harvard?
It was just a 2-week summer workshop, so that was easy, and it was applicable to my job. So 2 weeks was hard to be away from home as a mom. That was hard, but it 100% was professional development to help me with my career. And so Howard actually paid for it for me to go and have that immersive experience.
What was your experience like teaching as an instructor for UT Martin as the instructor for Department of Communications?
So that was probably the most interesting teaching experience I've ever had. I was raised in the North. I'm from Ohio. I'm a Yankee. I went to school in Washington, D.C. At the time, we were called the Chocolate City, predominantly African-American, people from all around the country, all around the world. My roommate was from Jamaica. Best college trip ever, going to her meet her family. So to leave that and to leave Maryland, which is part of the South, but has a lot more Northern tendencies, to then go to what we would consider the Deep South in West Tennessee, where cotton and slavery is part of the recent memory. Jim Crow is part of the recent memory of people, segregated churches, segregated communities. All of that was real. To be in an agricultural community where the major industry was swine and soybean production, man, that was a different cultural immersion for me. So coming to that environment where the African Americans who came primarily either from very rural communities in Tennessee or were from Memphis because they wanted to go away from home but not too far. And so it was very different. I had to teach an ag communications class, teaching journalism to agriculture business majors. Well, I knew nothing about ag. I had to learn about that. How could I take what I knew about journalism and how would that apply to their careers? And there wasn't a single person of color in my classroom. In fact, there was only about 2 or 3 girls, women, female identifying people in that classroom. But eventually I built a good rapport, even to the extent when I would travel to go to conferences and things, or travel to go back and forth to school. And one of the students who was on our collegiate rodeo team, and we had built up a good relationship of trust. And he said, "You're leaving tonight to go to the airport in Nashville?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you've got to drive through this county, and that county has a live, active Klan, Ku Klux Klan. And do you have one of those cell phone things?" And at that time, I had one of the cell phones just in case of emergency. He said, "Don't call the police. Call me if something happens."
What was your experience like going to one of your alma mater of Howard to become a professor?
That was that was always my dream, is that I would go get my master's and my doctorate and I'd be able to come back home. So that was a dream come true. That was that was, like I said, it was a dream come true because Howard poured so much into me, gave me access to career opportunities, gave me access to internships, gave me access to some of the most brilliant minds that inspired me in the classroom and outside the classroom. So to be able to come back and to teach others and to give other students that same sort of experience that was given to me, that was one of the biggest honors of my life, to be able to do that for 16 years.
What was the transition like going from Howard to Syracuse to be a professor and chair of the public relations department?
It was a really interesting transition. So one, it's really cold and snowy in Syracuse. I had to go buy a coat that was warm enough so I could wear every day, and boots that weren't fashion boots but could really handle snow. Um, Outside of that, I would say that it was an amazing experience because Syracuse had a ton of resources. It's a fully endowed, named school of communications, one of the top in the world. Howard had amazing access because we provided diverse talent to the industry, but people have not invested in HBCUs like Howard in the way that they have invested in schools like Syracuse. So what we had in intellectual power, they had in economic fiscal resources. And so things that would take me years to do because I didn't have the money to do and I'd have to scrape it up at Howard, I could just make the requisition and take students to New York, take students to LA, build things fast. We accomplished so much because I had that strong work ethic from Howard that we had to struggle for everything we got, to then that same work ethic and put into an environment that was rich with economic resources. We were unstoppable. We won 2 back-to-back PR Week awards. Why? Because we had the resources and we had the intellectual talent. It was the best of both worlds.
How was your experience like being the chair of the public relations department for Syracuse University?
It was an amazing experience because we were able to take a good program and make it great. And it continues to grow and to excel. Many of the programs that we developed, like a partnership with the military, we have faculty that teach at the Defense Information School. We expanded the number of students who were veterans who were coming back to get their master's degrees. We were able to start a program in entertainment public relations out in LA. We were able to start a financial investor communications specialization, working with our alumni and corporate partners, and that was one of the first in the nation. So it was an amazing experience, really eager students, and really great faculty.
How was it like getting the job at Elon to become the dean of the School of Communications?
That was another awesome experience. the School of Communications at Elon was just founded just over 21 years ago, just over, I guess, 25 years ago now. I was dean for 4 years, and we celebrated its 21st anniversary. I was just the second dean, the founding dean, and then me. And it was interesting because the first dean was a Southerner, tall, Caucasian guy, really traditional journalist. I come in, I'm a younger African American female, 5'3", and a PR person. We were so different, but we accomplished great things together. It was the most caring, collective, supportive faculty who were dedicated to elevating that program with innovation. And we were able to help take what was once a very small program and grew dramatically to have the appropriate administrative structure to set ourselves up for accreditation of one of our majors, the sport management major that wasn't accredited. We were able to survive COVID together and thrive through it. And we won a PR Week award there too while I was dean of the school. So I'm really proud of the work that we did there. Great students, great faculty, and amazing young alumni.
What did you learn while being the dean of School of Communications at Elon?
I learned about collaboration, and when you have a strategic plan, you need to have timelines to it, and you have to have budgets to it. And that was one of the best things of what collaborative thought. Elon loves to take a sticky problem, like a really crazy problem, and do things called campus conversations, and talk about how we all could approach solving that problem. And then they take those ideas and they work through them and they attack it with laser focus, and it helps to move the university forward.
As someone in higher education, what was the transition like going from university to lead you to Dillard University to become the president?
You learn something from each role, and you have to take time to sit back and reflect. What did I accomplish during my time there? What did I learn from each role? And how can I take those lessons and apply them to new situations? And it's not necessarily that it's the exact same solution, but the lessons in time management, the lessons in being calm under pressure, the lessons in celebrating the successes along the way, the lessons in building community, the lessons in giving tough love. You take that from each position and you apply it to new situations. And you're going to fail, you're going to mess up, and you take those failures and you fail forward. How do you learn not to do that again?
What qualifications do you need to have to be the president of a college or university?
You know, those qualifications are changing. I think that you need, regardless of your pathway, you need to be good at budgeting and knowing how to manage a budget. You need to be really good at managing people. You need to be really good at understanding the marketplace. What are disciplines or what are industries that need talent, and how can you help your faculty to shape that the curriculum you offer in order to meet industry and workplace demands, or give them exposure through different types of experiences? How do you tell amazing stories that get other people excited about your university, both inside and outside of the university? How do you keep your alumni engaged and proud that they graduated from that university? How do you motivate your students? How do you listen? Regardless of your background, whether you go from a professor up to the presidency, or if you go from industry into higher ed, you have to have those transferable skills.
How is it feeling like becoming the 8th president to work at Dillard University?
It's an amazing honor. It feels like it's a calling. I had never worked at Dillard before. I had worked in very different environments. I had never lived in Louisiana before. Um, and so it has been an amazing opportunity to learn every day. There's great challenges, but there's great opportunities. And I love our students, the things they've overcome to get here, their ability to seize opportunities, and watching them soar. Our faculty's dedication and how resilient they are from, gosh, overcoming things like Hurricane Katrina. We've had faculty who lived through that, living through COVID, living through so many different trials. Our faculty and staff, they're the backbone of the campus. And it's just an honor to be able to serve them and to help make Dillard, continue to make Dillard a historically Black college that cultivates leaders. And I feel called to do it. I feel excited and honored to be given the opportunity to lead this school.
What was it like to follow the path that Dr. Walter Kimbrough created before you took over?
Yeah, he was a very connected leader who was advocating for African Americans, for people who can't afford college, for the rights of others here on campus, in the marketplace, in front of the federal government. He was a huge advocate, and he was able to take the recovery effort that Dr. Marveline Hughes started living and making it through Katrina, and helped to put the university back on stable ground, growing enrollment, increasing alumni giving, and growing the endowment. And he was a great leader to be able to take, again, much like Syracuse, something that was already good, and hopefully, like Syracuse, making it even greater. So it's been a joy to follow in his footsteps.
What are some of your roles and responsibilities as the president at Dillard University?
Wow, it's fundraising. It is telling the amazing story of the university and how people have written their legacy to become leaders, to become judges, to become politicians, to become actors and producers and filmmakers and engineers and pharmacists and doctors. I get to tell those stories. I get to talk to parents and help them to navigate how they get their students, first generation, many of them, to become the first college graduates in their family. I get to help the faculty to find resources to do their research and their creative activities. I get to help staff find resources so that they can deliver study abroad experiences, and they can take students to research conferences and have better health and wellness. It's my job, it's my privilege to serve, to make Dillard a better place.
How do you balance being the president of Dillard University and life outside of Dillard?
It's called life integration, work-life integration. I never stopped being a mom. I never stopped being a friend. I never stopped being a daughter, but I'm simultaneously being the president. And so it's knowing how to listen and be present in the places that you are. But you find yourself being a mom when you're at work, and you find yourself being the president when you're at home.
What are some of your notable awards you have received while working in higher education?
Oh my goodness, you can see that online. Just recently, I was inducted into the Journalism Schools Hall of Fame for University of Maryland. I've been recognized as from the Public Relations Society of America of being an outstanding educator. I won their Educator of the Year award. Been recognized for my diversity and inclusion work, both by PR Week, a national magazine, as well as the Page Society for having a distinguished service career to the PR industry. Innovation Teaching Awards. I don't know. This is like embarrassing. You're not supposed to name my awards. Read about them in my bio. This is kind of strange.
What have been some of your accomplishments so far as president of Dillard University?
I'm excited that we started a staff council where staff members can get together and share their ideas and help me to solve problems, because staff are at the university 12 months of the year. I think that was an amazing accomplishment. We started an internal newsletter called the DU Brew, where we share updates of what's happening on campus with the campus community. We have relaunched this National Center for Black-Jewish Relations, because there's so much anti-Semitism in the world and there's so much racism in the world. How do our two communities continue to work together like we did in the civil rights movement to advance issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion? So those are just a few of the things that we've begun to do.
What are some of your future plans as president for Dillard University?
There are three things that we want to do. We want to continue to invest in our infrastructure to have facilities that withstand the forecast. We want to continue to activate our commitment to fortifying our staff and faculty, because they give so much. We want to make sure that they have professional development opportunities. We want to continue to finance the future so that our students can afford an education. So those are the three main focuses, but ultimately my vision for the university is that we will be known as a community where we are engaged in helping our communities to be healthier, to be safer, and to be more innovative. And we'll do that through making sure that the university is a living and learning and serving community.
What advice would you give someone looking to get into higher education, looking to be a professor?
You have to 100% study, go get your master's degree. And if you want to become a professor, you should go get your doctorate degree, but you need to have professional experience along the way. Whatever your discipline is, if you're a poet, you want to be an English professor, then you need to write and publish poetry. If you want to be a film professor, then you need to go out and make some movies. You can't just theorize about it, you need to go and do it. If you want to be a political science teacher, you need to go work on somebody's campaign or work in the government. You need to do something in your industry in addition to studying it. And also take classes and learning how to be a good teacher, be it a professional development workshop or get a certification in teaching, because you're taught in graduate school how to become an expert in a subject. Most graduate schools don't teach you how to be a teacher, so you have to learn that as well. But learning how to teach and knowing the knowledge of the industry, you can't substitute experience. I'd rather hire somebody who's worked in that space, because most of our students, probably 90% of our students, will go into industry and won't become professors. So we need people who have experience that can stay connected to the industries that we serve and make sure that we're preparing people to be leaders of tomorrow in the marketplace.
What advice would you give professors looking to do the path you did in becoming a college or university president?
Learn, 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 learn. Network, network, network. Be excellent at what you do every day. How can you not think about yourself? How can you think about helping others to be better, helping others to achieve their dreams? If you keep your focus on other people and helping them to achieve, you will be a stronger leader.
What advice would you give a future college or university president looking to get started in becoming a president of a college or university?
How would I help a professor become a college president? The same thing. Be a student of the industry, learn as much as you can, and focus on helping other people. But you have to take time to reflect on what your accomplishments are and what are the lessons that you learned, and begin to do a brain dump of everything that you've accomplished from an outcomes perspective. What impact did that program I developed have on students? What impact did the way I approach budgeting help the university to be more effective and efficient? always think about your activities and the impact, and you have to reflect on that on a regular basis.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ford. It was an honor to speak with you today. Thank you for explaining about your career background. It's been an honor. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to seeing the video and what you do with it, and we'll share it on our social.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good one. Take care.
You too.